The seventh chapter of Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin is titled Prioritize and Execute, and it emphasizes the importance of prioritizing tasks and objectives to achieve success. The authors argue that in any situation, leaders must prioritize tasks and execute them in a disciplined and focused manner. Willink and Babin explain that in high-pressure situations, leaders must remain calm and focused, avoiding the temptation to react impulsively or emotionally. Instead, they must assess the situation, prioritize tasks, and execute them in a disciplined and efficient manner. Moreover, the authors argue that leaders must be flexible and adaptable, adjusting their priorities and plans as necessary. Leaders must be able to prioritize tasks quickly, focusing on what is most critical and urgent, while remaining flexible enough to adjust as new information arises. The authors also stressed the importance of delegation, allowing subordinates to take on tasks and responsibilities as needed. Delegation helps to lighten the leader's workload, allowing them to focus on higher-level tasks and objectives. Willink and Babin provide examples of how prioritization and execution are essential in both military and civilian contexts. They share a story of a construction project where they were tasked with completing a bridge in a short amount of time. By prioritizing tasks and executing them efficiently, they were able to complete the project on time and within budget. The authors conclude the chapter by emphasizing the importance of discipline and focus in prioritization and execution. Leaders must be disciplined in their approach, focusing on what is most critical and urgent, while remaining flexible and adaptable. They must also delegate tasks as necessary, allowing subordinates to take on responsibilities and lighten the leader's workload. In summary, the seventh chapter of Extreme Ownership highlights the importance of prioritizing tasks and executing them efficiently and effectively. Leaders must remain calm and focused, avoiding the temptation to react impulsively or emotionally. They must prioritize tasks quickly, focusing on what is most critical and urgent, while remaining flexible and adaptable. Delegation is also essential in lightening the leader's workload and allowing subordinates to take on responsibilities. Prioritization and execution require discipline and focus, and leaders must be disciplined in their approach. The eighth chapter of Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin is titled Decentralized Command, and it emphasizes the importance of empowering subordinates to make decisions and take action. The authors argue that in any organization, leaders must delegate decision-making authority to their subordinates, creating a culture of decentralized command. Willink and Babin explain that in a decentralized command structure, leaders set the objectives and provide guidance, but subordinates are empowered to make decisions and take action. This allows for more efficient decision-making and execution, as subordinates are better able to respond to changing circumstances and take advantage of opportunities. Moreover, the authors argue that a decentralized command structure creates a culture of ownership and accountability, as subordinates are responsible for the decisions they make and the actions they take. This fosters a sense of pride and responsibility, leading to higher performance and better results. The authors provide examples of how decentralized command was used effectively in military operations. They share a story of a team of Navy SEALs who were tasked with capturing a high-value target. Despite encountering unexpected obstacles, the team was able to adapt and complete the mission successfully, due in part to the decentralized command structure. Willink and Babin also stressed the importance of effective communication in a decentralized command structure. Leaders must provide clear objectives and guidance, while also ensuring that subordinates have the information they need to make informed decisions. The authors conclude the chapter by emphasizing that decentralized command requires trust and empowerment. Leaders must trust their subordinates to make decisions and take action, while subordinates must be empowered to act within the framework of the objectives and guidance provided by their leaders. In summary, the eighth chapter of Extreme Ownership highlights the importance of decentralized command in empowering subordinates to make decisions and take action. A decentralized command structure allows for more efficient decision-making and execution, fosters a culture of ownership and accountability, and leads to higher performance and better results. Effective communication is essential in a decentralized command structure, and trust and empowerment are necessary for success. Leaders must set clear objectives and guidance, while subordinates must be empowered to act within the framework provided by their leaders. The ninth chapter of Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin is titled Plan, and it emphasizes the importance of planning in achieving success. The authors argue that in any endeavor, leaders must create a detailed and comprehensive plan, setting clear objectives and identifying the steps necessary to achieve those objectives. Willink and Babin explain that planning is critical in ensuring that all members of a team are aligned and working towards the same goals. A well-planned operation allows for more efficient execution, as team members have a clear understanding of their roles and responsibilities. Moreover, the authors argue that planning helps leaders anticipate and mitigate potential risks and obstacles. By identifying potential challenges and developing contingency plans, leaders can minimize the impact of unforeseen events and ensure that the mission can continue despite setbacks. The authors provide examples of how planning was used effectively in military operations. They share a story of a mission to capture a high-value target, where detailed planning and contingency planning allowed the team to adapt and complete the mission successfully, despite encountering unexpected obstacles. Willink and Babin also stressed the importance of flexibility in planning. While it is essential to have a detailed plan, leaders must be prepared to adjust the plan as necessary based on changing circumstances or new information. The authors conclude the chapter by emphasizing the importance of communication in planning. Leaders must communicate their plan clearly and effectively to their team members, ensuring that everyone understands their roles and responsibilities. They must also encourage feedback and input from their team members, incorporating their ideas and suggestions into the plan as appropriate. In summary, the ninth chapter of Extreme Ownership highlights the importance of planning in achieving success. A well-planned operation allows for more efficient execution, minimizes the impact of unforeseen events, and ensures that team members are aligned and working towards the same goals. Flexibility is also essential in planning, as leaders must be prepared to adjust the plan as necessary based on changing circumstances or new information. Effective communication is critical in planning, and leaders must communicate their plan clearly and encourage feedback and input from their team members. In Chapter 10 of Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink and Leif Babin discussed the importance of leading both up and down the chain of command. The authors argue that effective leadership involves not only leading subordinates but also supporting and leading superiors. Leading up the chain of command involves providing support to superiors, understanding their priorities, and aligning subordinate goals and objectives with those of senior leadership. This requires humility and a willingness to subordinate personal preferences to the broader mission and the needs of the organization. The authors provide an example from their time in the military where they had to provide a plan to their superior officer that did not align with their personal preference. Despite their initial reluctance, they recognized that it was the best course of action and provided the plan, which was ultimately successful. Leading down the chain of command involves providing guidance and direction to subordinates, ensuring they understand the mission and their role in achieving it. Leaders must also communicate expectations and hold team members accountable for their actions. Willink and Babin emphasize the importance of building trust with both superiors and subordinates. Trust allows leaders to delegate responsibility and empower their team members to make decisions and take initiative. The authors provide examples of how trust was built and maintained in military operations. They emphasize the importance of leading by example and being willing to share the risks and hardships of the mission with subordinates. In conclusion, the authors argue that effective leadership requires leading both up and down the chain of command. Leaders must provide support to superiors while also providing guidance and direction to subordinates. Building trust is essential in both directions, and leaders must be willing to subordinate personal preferences and lead by example. Chapter 11 of Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin is titled Decisiveness and Uncertainty. In this chapter, the authors discuss the importance of making decisive decisions even in the face of uncertainty. Willink and Babin argue that leaders must be able to make decisions quickly and confidently, even when they don't have all the information they would like. This requires a willingness to take calculated risks and make difficult decisions. The authors emphasize the importance of being proactive in decision-making, Rather than waiting for circumstances to dictate the course of action, leaders must be able to anticipate potential problems and take action to address them before they become more significant issues. Willink and Babin provide examples from their military experience where decisive action was necessary in uncertain situations. They describe a mission where they had to make a decision to advance despite a lack of clear intelligence on enemy movements. The decision to advance was successful, and it prevented the enemy from establishing a strong defensive position. The authors also discussed the importance of evaluating the effectiveness of decisions and being willing to adjust course as necessary. Leaders must be able to recognize when the decision isn't working and make changes to ensure the mission's success. Moreover, Willink and Babin emphasize the importance of taking ownership of decisions. Even if they don't turn out as planned, leaders must be willing to accept responsibility for their decisions and learn from their mistakes. In conclusion, the authors argue that leaders must be able to make decisive decisions even in the face of uncertainty. This requires a willingness to take calculated risks and be proactive in decision-making. Leaders must be able to evaluate the effectiveness of decisions and be willing to adjust course as necessary. Finally, leaders must be willing to take ownership of their decisions, even when they don't turn out as planned, and learn from their mistakes. Chapter 12 of Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin is titled The Dichotomy of Leadership. In this chapter, the authors discuss the balancing act that leaders must perform to be successful in their roles. The authors argue that leaders must balance two seemingly opposite qualities, being aggressive and assertive while also being humble and empathetic. Leaders must be willing to take charge, make tough decisions, and lead from the front, while also being willing to listen to feedback, admit mistakes, and show empathy towards their team members. Willink and Babin provide examples from their military experience where they had to balance these qualities. They describe a mission where they had to take charge and make tough decisions, but they also had to show empathy towards their team members who were struggling with the stress of the mission. The authors emphasize that leaders must be able to balance these qualities at all times, not just in certain situations. They argue that leaders must be able to switch between these qualities depending on the situation, being assertive and aggressive when necessary, but also showing humility and empathy when appropriate. Willink and Babin also emphasize that leadership is a learning process, and that leaders must be willing to adapt and change their approach as necessary. They provide an example of a leader who struggled with balancing these qualities but was eventually able to learn and improve. In conclusion, the authors argue that leaders must be able to balance seemingly opposite qualities to be successful in their roles. They must be able to be assertive and aggressive when necessary, while also being humble and empathetic. Leaders must be able to switch between these qualities depending on the situation and be willing to adapt and learn as